Hey, it's me, Nikki Nellis. I've got another industry night for you. I'm here at Jackie down in the Navy Yard. Nina Oduro, co-founder of the Black Women in Food Summit, and she's also CEO of Dine, Diaspora, and Ehime, did I say it right?
Yes.
Ehime, oh my God, Eigbe, founder of Sweetkiwi, and she is also a Black Women in Food Awards honoree. So we're going to find out what all that means in just a sec. But I really want to start with you, Nina. We've known each other for quite a few years. The first time you were on Foodie and the Beast, you came on, I think it was for the first Black Women in Food Summit. And it was the first time I met you and your partner, Mame.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say her last name because please, it's enough today. My chest is already heartbeat, like my heart is beating fast. So I'd love to know let's talk a little bit about Dine Diaspora, what you guys were trying to do and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so before there was Black Women in Food, there was Dine Diaspora. Mommy and I started Dine Diaspora because here in DC, we felt like, what better way to connect people over food, especially in such a transient city where people are about their business. But ultimately, we wanted to not just connect people, but use African diaspora cuisine as our mechanism. Why was that? We felt like while African diaspora cuisine was here in DC, there wasn't enough, and there wasn't enough people that were actually featuring the people behind the food. Where were their chefs? What were their stories? And so we started off with these nice dinners, curated, invite-only, beautiful dinners. And our first chef was actually Chef Eric Japong, who's back here in DC.
Oh my God, he just opened up his restaurant.
I know. Look at this full circle story.
Right?
And with that, over the years, we evolved. We became in tune to learning about some of the needs of the chefs, some of the needs of the actual community of people that we were working with. Dine Diaspora, beyond just the events that we were doing, we do marketing campaigns for brands that center food, use foods as storytelling for marketing. We do event productions for those businesses and brands. And we also do activations as well. So festivals, trade shows. I've actually worked with Ehime on a trade show, fancy food actually. Okay. And so what does it look like to bring these cultural foods to life and to really leverage the business networks and the connections that are necessary for them to thrive?
Well, that's really interesting because I'm sort of curious. Like when I think back, DC has always been known for its incredible Ethiopian population and Ethiopian innovation restaurants. Is that where you sort of thought you were starting, and what were you finding as you sort of dug deeper?
Yeah, so of course you cannot come to DC without anything about Ethiopian food because Ethiopians here are one of the highest populations of Ethiopians outside of their country. But it wasn't necessarily the Ethiopian food stories and experiences around DC that catalyzed us, but it was, I think, a bedrock of why we knew we could succeed. That foundation of African-American cuisine here in DC too. You have Ben's Chili Bowl and the legends that created what the vibrancy of different Black diaspora foods can be experienced here in DC, Caribbean food. But when we talk about West African cuisine, which is where Mame and I are from, we're from Ghana. While we had restaurants and elements of that, we felt like there should be more. And so some of our own culture, which is why, starting with Eric was also very much a big connection because he's also from Ghana. But then the expansiveness of it, the African diaspora is not just Africa, it's the Caribbean, it's Africans all over the world, merging their culture with those other elements of culture and cuisine. And then we've worked with brands where we've also been able to translate what we've learned about African diaspora cuisine to other communities.
Well, I was going to ask about that. You must have learned so much. I'm sure some of it was, I thought it was going to be like this. But then, the intersection of where people wind up and what they bring with them and what they take from where they are and what that looks like on the plate. I think of like Dakar in New Orleans is such a great example. So let's just move ahead a little bit to what was it about what you were doing and still continue to do, obviously, but that created this summit.
Yeah, so through Dine Diaspora, we were, like I said, identify some of the needs of the actual professionals, the chefs, the food entrepreneurs like Ehime. And what we were actually identifying is that we all know that the food industry is highly patriarchal. And so for the communities that we work with and the businesses that we work with, especially the brands, they were also gravitating to what they have been told is the food scene. Male chefs, and often white male chefs are at the pinnacle, at the forefront.
Yeah.
It was forcing us to also fall into that, meaning who did we choose to work with? How did we identify our chefs, our entrepreneurs that were doing those marketing projects? And we took a step back because we didn't want to just fall into that cycle. How could we, as women founders, Black women founders, not include the actual community that we are also a part of and from? And so that was the catalyst to begin Black Women in Food, and to really help those brands, actually, that was the catalyst, see that Black women are also at the forefront of the food industry. They're doing incredible things. We should be working with them. We should be giving them marketing and brand campaigns. That's literally where it started from. So the first thing we did was say, well, how do we find them? Let's create an awards, because awards are the ways in which people celebrate anyone that's done something great, but then it's also it's one of those marketing campaigns, I would say, marketing tools where people are like, oh my gosh, someone won
if they're getting an award.
Right. This is someone that matters, and we knew that there were so many Black women that matter, and so we started soliciting public nominations, because at the end of the day, we didn't want to be the gatekeepers of who we were going to award. And here we are today, 8 years later, we have an awards. We listened to our honorees over the years, like Ehime. They told us what they needed. They said they needed.
I am going to get to you, I promise. But she's got such a good story.
That's an amazing story.
They said they needed funding. They said that they needed convening mechanisms, networking opportunities. And
so you really listened. Like when you were first doing it, you had an idea of what it was going to be, but then you got all the feedback from everyone.
Yeah.
Because when I look at what you're doing this year, like, and I'm jumping ahead, but I love that wellness is a part of it. You know, like I love connection. I love networking. Like it's more than just speakers. It's really about creating a community.
Yeah. So the summit came about because awardees, like Ehime said, we want this. And you're right. It's not just a conference where you come and just learn something and go or make connections. It feels like the energy, it's an ecosystem in there. There's an ecosystem, there's media, food media, there's farmers, there's activists, there's entrepreneurs, CPG entrepreneurs. So when you're in there, you're engulfed in the food ecosystem, like totally, and you can find your needs, pivot left, right, do whatever you need to do to get what you need to apply to the work you're doing in the food industry.
Okay, I want to get to Ehime, but before I do, I just want to sort of bring up one key point, and then we're going to tell your story. It's called Black Women in Food.
Yeah.
We are in some screwed up times. Diversity has become a dirty word. How do you work within that, work around that, support the people that you're trying to raise people up, not tear people down. So how do you work within this current climate?
You know, I'm glad you asked that, because for the past 2 years, we've been on that. You know, the word diversity becoming dirty has been like a journey, and we're finally at a point where I think it feels like there's even criminalization of it.
Yes.
And so, yeah, every day that we're doing this work, we feel like we are in the heart of the challenge. And how do we bring people along is literally by letting everyone know that it's for you as well. You can get involved. This is about uplifting and supporting a community, but not exclusively. We can't do it alone, and everyone's invited along that journey. And so there's multiple ways. If you even look at the roster, we have non-Black women that are experts in the food industry coming to also ignite and capture that space and make connections. And that's perfectly fine. But the core thing is that we're not shy to continue to do this work, because this work is still necessary. Despite the climate that we're in, if you're really invested in inclusivity in the food industry, there's no way that you cannot find what we're doing and what Black women need as important.
Agreed. Okay. We're going to put a pin in that because we're going to get a little deeper on what you were talking about. And so now I have with me Ehime Eigbe, right?
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm
so you're the
fine,
founder of
thank
Sweetkiwi.
Yep.
We're going to get to taste it. I'm
Yep.
very excited. I got a whole bag like next to me here. But I'd love to hear a little bit about your story and how you got into the food space.
I was diagnosed with a uterine fibroid, and I was looking. I didn't want to have surgery. That was the main thing. It just sounded too scary, and I just started doing more research. I read about people who have used food to change their diagnosis.
Okay, I have to ask, but Did that run in your family?
No, not
Oh,
really.
okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just thought maybe I could do it. Maybe I could just, went through a complete dietary change. Yeah.
Wow.
I went through a complete dietary change, completely started making my own meals. I stopped eating out, would curate my meals from
Don't
Monday
say that
to...
too loud. We are sitting in a restaurant. So go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I actually did go back to doing that once I kind of figured out what worked for me. It allowed me then, when I go to a restaurant, know what to select.
So what were the changes you made?
So changes were drinking more water, eating more proteins. I cut out like beef. I cut out just anything that could be a potential trigger from what I was reading. But the main focus was just getting more nutrition. A lot of times we're eating a lot of things and I think that we eat to feel full, and we don't realize that we need to eat to actually live. Our cells regenerate every day. And when they're regenerating, they use nutrition to do that. And when you're not getting enough nutrition, your cells don't get to regenerate and they die off. And that's where a lot of the diseases that we're fighting come from. So it's about getting enough nutrition. That's why our labels have things like DV, your daily recommended protein intake, your daily recommended carb intake.
Okay, let's explain what your product is, and I want to know how you created it.
So after going through a dietary, I'm a big sweet tooth, so it was really hard for me to give up a lot of things, especially dessert, especially ice cream. And so I would have binge days where I'm like, I taste a spoon and then I end up with like 4 pints.
Okay.
And just because I feel like I'm starving myself. And that's why people tell you don't do the starvation thing, because it never works, right? And so it was about creating desserts or treats that I loved that were still, nutritious, that were now nutritious, but still could deliver on being delicious. And so I thought Greek yogurt was a great idea because it had a lot of protein, which was natural, and I could just figure it out. I bought like an ice cream machine at home, started playing around in my kitchen, and then it just kind of went from there.
And was there anything from your upbringing or sort of generational history that somebody make ice cream, or was there a big cook in your family? Like, was you inspired by anyone, or you were like, I want ice cream, and this is how I'm gonna get it?
So I didn't realize it at the time, but my dad is a chemist, and growing up we did a lot of food practicals. My dad used to work for Guinness, and he created like beers and created a lot of recipes.
Oh, cool.
I grew up making like a lot of cool things from like rice. But at the time, it didn't occur to me that the desire to want to kind of make it myself came from the fact that I my whole childhood was always experimenting and making something in the kitchen. That's why I thought I could do it. I was like, you know what, I'd just go do this thing. But it'd been so long that I didn't connect the two. But now I'm like, actually, when I think about it, this is what I grew up doing. Like my dad taught us how to make our own oils from like different things.
That's so cool. My dad did not teach me anything. My dad's great, but that he didn't teach me how to do. So at what point are you making your product for you, for self-consumption, that you're like, I think I have a business?
So I was working at Citigroup at the time. I was doing bankruptcy litigation, and I had a very close-knit team. We would all bring like our lunches or go out to eat, and when I stopped going out to eat, we would just kind of share our food, and, they thought the product was great. And at some point I was like, it's getting expensive because everybody wants it. And, maybe we need to
gifts forever.
Maybe everyone has to start chipping in for groceries on the team. And then they were like, well, we'll pay for it. And I was like, you would? And, and then I started making it for the team and selling it.
Let's talk a little business now. So you're a young Black woman trying to break into the consumer packaged goods space. Access to money, access to mentorship, access, like creating the wheel by yourself shouldn't have to happen. What did you do? Where did you go to sort of find your path? So that, I feel like you're like keeping this secret. Do you want to put some of this out?
Yes.
Like a real girlfriend's
Yes.
Absolutely.
Anybody break up with anybody, right? We do like eating while we're talking.
We don't need an excuse.
We don't at all.
These are so cute. Wait, you have a Smurf on one.
A
What is
Smurf
that?
deal. Yes.
Oh my God.
We have a collaboration with the Smurfs.
Collab with
We
the
do.
Smurfs?
Yes,
That is
iconic,
happening.
right?
Okay.
Yes.
I'm trying to see what I want. I want chocolate hazelnut. Was that a surprise?
Yeah. The Smurf is really good. You have to try that.
All the
Okay.
flavors.
All right. Which one are you gonna have?
The Smurf is so good.
Okay.
Which flavor is this one?
We can share.
The chocolate.
Yeah. Okay, so go ahead. So how'd you
I
get
can bring
into
another
the consumer packaged goods?
So I was nervous because it just wasn't, I never thought I would be an entrepreneur.
Right.
I really wanted to do this thing, and I felt like the best way to do it was getting some knowledge. So I went to
Okay.
Penn State. I studied ice cream manufacturing and cultured dairy
That makes
manufacturing.
sense.
To just understand the basics. I wanted to learn the science behind product creation so I could make a better product. And
She's gonna have to open it for me. Thank you, dear.
so I could make a better product. And it just kind of went from there. We started doing catering, and that's how we actually discovered Dine Diaspora. We started catering in the DC area, and they would have these pop-up events. And, you know, one of the things I first started doing when we would do catering was basically creating like very unique African flavors. So that was something I was really excited about. And so Dine Diaspora seemed like a perfect place to kind of connect with the audience that would appreciate the flavors.
Okay.
So we did a few pop-ups for Dine
the
Diaspora.
festival. We have a festival
festivals.
called Chop Bar.
Okay.
Yes.
We haven't done it since COVID. You know, we might bring it back.
Oh my God, I was gonna say, the whole COVID thing really screwed everything up.
Exactly.
It's hard to believe that 5 years ago this week that everything shut down.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Okay.
I remember because I had a daughter in 2020. So her birthday is the marker for my
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I
for
bet.
my COVID reminder. Yeah, so we started doing that. We started working with people like Bozzuto, catering like residential and commercial buildings,
Cool.
and that grew pretty quickly. And before we knew it, like a brand like Whole Foods loved the product, was looking for us
I mean, there
to
was a time when
present
Whole
it.
Foods was really into bringing in small
Absolutely.
Local
artisan
businesses. Yeah.
businesses.
Yeah.
Has that changed?
It hasn't changed. They still have their local program. It's just maybe a bit slightly different.
Harder to get into, I
It's a
think.
little bit more curated now, but still the same kind of support. So we came in through the local program. They tried it. They wanted us to present for it. And then in 2020, July, we launched into Whole Foods.
Wow.
And then we quickly grew from there into other retailers. But like you said, it's been a learning process. We didn't have the funding. We didn't have the knowledge. There was so much about retail. So I think in my mind, it was like, okay, you sell a product to someone, they pay you because that's the world we come from. You do
Right.
catering, we're paid before we even show up. To cater, if you're a bigger business, then maybe you pay us later, you send us a check, but we trust you.
Right. I was like,
Retail
nobody's paying
is
me in advance. I don't get things until a couple of weeks later. Go
Right.
ahead.
retail's completely not that. And we had to learn that the very, very hard way.
Right, so you had to put the product out there.
And you have to put the product out there, you have
Wait
to
for
market
the
the
money.
product, wait for the money. They
So
have
tough.
30 to 60 days, sometimes 90 days payment terms.
Okay, that
was-
90-day stuff, you gotta be kidding me.
Horrible.
So,
So
for
horrible,
a
especially for
small
the big
brand,
companies.
yeah, and you have to run promotions, there's so much you have to do that as a small brand is really tough.
Mhm.
And it was a big learning curve for us. I think we're still learning, but we've been able to reiterate, you know, and like Nina was saying, just kind of being in, you know, in a space with other people who are just like me. And sometimes, and I think that's what's special about Dine Diaspora and the Black Women in Food Summit is that I'm meeting people who have the same challenges as me. Right? I'm meeting people who have the same obstacles that I do. Because sometimes I'm in conversation and in different rooms where they don't understand what I'm talking about. Or some people have raised their funding before when they had the idea for the product. And they can't relate to what I'm talking about. The fact that we have a product on shelf, we're doing so well, we have great revenues, but still can't raise any funding. But being in the space with other Black women, you know, there's so many people who share the same sentiment or who have the same experience, and I'm able to get resources from them about how they've worked through it or how they've survived. You know, I remember last year we went through our very first just challenge with funding where we had someone threaten us with a lawsuit. And
Why?
I remember that was just a payment agreement thing. And for me, I've never had that before. So it was like a falling apart moment, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God,
Right.
it's this.
Oh my God.
And I remember talking to Leslie, Mama's Biscuits, and
Yes.
you know, I met her through Dine Diaspora. You know, she's like, I've gotten like 5 of those. It's okay.
Like,
But
calm down.
Yeah. Like, here's what you have to do. And I was like, really? like that's all. Like I just have to negotiate the stuff away. And literally, she was so right. But before I talked to her, I was like a
Freaking
complete mess.
Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit because I think this is really what you do and what you were trying to do. And now this is such a great example of it, is bringing together people to the table. When you and I were on the panel earlier this week, one of the questions I asked, I quoted it as the male gaze, right? Like, as women in business, myself included, you know, when we're talking to men, because let's be honest, most of the people we're talking to when it comes to money is men. And, you know, you really have to decide how you position yourself to be taken seriously and to make the business connection, make the business deal. And my question was then, and I'm bringing it up now to both of you, is the male gaze. How do we work within this system to retain our authenticity, be true to who we are, and not have to bend or flex ourselves to be something that we're not?
Mm-hmm. So my answer that then and still is now that we don't have to bend, and that we have to find men that understand and or are willing to engage with us and learn themselves. So often women are put into positions where we're learning men so much and we're learning to be heard by them, that they don't have to do a damn thing.
No, you're 100% right.
Yeah,
right.
I'm exhausted. Right. And nevertheless, I think there are rooms where if you're not understood, you're not understood. And you have to keep going. And that's the key here. Like, it's about the stamina and the will and finding the support where you find the next man or the next woman. And more often than before, there is the next woman. And that's what I wanted to, you know, I said on the panel, I'm like, this community that we've created, there are so many women, and we as women have to support them. If there's a woman in the room that is an, you know, angel investor, how does she rise? How does she do more? How does she start her own fund? Things like that, because I think we can create the pathways. And that's not to say that men shouldn't be involved.
No, of course not.
Right.
Because, and I'm married to a man. I mean, I have 4 sons. Like, you know, there's no reason, and a daughter. But I mean, you know, I'm not denigrating them. But I'm saying from a business standpoint, the question is, especially like for me as a white woman, I know the obstacles I've had to go through. And I have products, right? And I know what I've had to do to get where I am. And I know for Black women, it's even that much harder.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of curious, like, now that you have this mentorship, like, I love that you were able to call somebody and she was like, yeah, it's okay, you'll get over it. How do you now circulate in this? And as an honoree at the event, like, what does that provide for you?
So for me, I think I've learned better ways to, like Nina said, not bending, but finding more innovative ways from being in this community. Because I'm around people who have had to do it without the funding. And so I'm learning that there are other ways that I can grow the business without, having to bend, without having to give up so much of my company. Is it hard? It's 10 times harder. It's 20 times harder. But it's the reality of what I have to do. And that's what we're doing, finding more advocates. And I think that also even within our community, within even the Black women in food community, Nina had a session one day with like a lot of investors, Black female entrepreneurs, investors who I was able to ask questions like, hey, how do I do this? How do I navigate this? What do you think about this? Or how best should I approach? And their responses was really great. And, that leads to like them also recommending us to other VCs for possible investment. And just continuing to navigate the space, continuing to show value. And we're building to a point where, they can't ignore us anymore. As of today, we're now in over 3,000 stores. We just launched nationwide with Allyship.
Oh my God, is that exciting? Congratulations.
Thank you. And, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to ignore us at some point. And, and it's sad that it has to get to that. But, you just have to keep building with people who want to build with
Yeah.
you.
And I have to say, the product speaks for itself.
Well, the
I can't
product does
stop
speak for
eating
itself.
it.
It's
Yeah.
delicious. You know, it's really interesting. I was on the phone yesterday with a young woman who reached out to me. She had an idea. I thought it was interesting. Now, there's two ways I could have gone on that phone call. I could have been like, that's going to be a lot of work. Good luck with that. But instead, I gave her the space to share where her idea was and to give her my story and to tell her that she should still go after it, but that it will, well, I think when you're in your bubble creating your own product, you don't realize all the hurdles that you will have to go over
Absolutely.
to make it happen. But when I was creating thelistareyouwantit.com, which is not a physical product, but it is a digital product, I had a lot of people be like, yeah, I don't get it. Or I don't think anybody wants that. I literally had somebody say to me, I don't think anybody wants that information. And I was like, I do. I'm doing it for me, but now I do it for so many other people. Do you know what
Absolutely.
I mean? And I think being in a room with other women who are open to the ideas, even if they know you're going to have to twist and turn a lot to get it to where it is successful, but being open to hear what the person's idea is and what they're inspired by in order, that is a better way than just being like, good luck with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, make them at home. Don't bother selling them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and there's people that will tell you that, you know, and as I think for anyone in the summit space, that energy isn't there. That energy isn't welcome. We literally ask people to come and identify in the beginning of our whole day. We say, what do you need? And throughout this day, find that answer. And at the end, we ask them, did you get what you need? Or did you start to figure out, find some pathways towards it? And then we let people speak at the end. People raise, this is what I found, this is what I didn't find, or whatever. But at the end of the day, there's going to be people along your journey, as you said, that will want to lean in. And sometimes the first person that says, sometimes I've had this, people will back away a little bit when you're first starting and then come along the journey later. And I always say, it's
That's
like a
true.
train. The train is moving. I'm the train. I'm moving whether you're coming or not. But since it's moving, you can hop on and hop off at any time. And I think it's an entrepreneurial journey. And sometimes the entrepreneur stops that thing and starts something new. And that person then comes along. And it's just fine. And so there's, this pathway about like being gracious, trying, and also don't take everything so personally. Everyone is not here to serve your idea.
That's that is an amazing piece of advice. We have not given the date of the summit. Can you please say that? And then, because we only have a couple minutes left, I'd love to talk about what's happening at the summit. Let's just break it down a little bit. And then I want to know what it means for her to be an honoree. Like,
absolutely.
Is she going to get like a big medal?
Yeah, so so summit this year is April 25th and 26th, so 2 days. First day is our Access to Markets Day. What that means is it's all structured around helping these women get access to market opportunities, so that we start with the marketplace. All different Black women-owned companies. This year we have tons of CPG products, desserts, drinks. I mean, it's really fun. Also, this year is sponsored by Pepsi. So we're really excited for that partnership there. It also has a pitch competition on that day. So many people have applied. Selection process is happening where three businesses will pitch for up to $15,000 of funding for their business. And then we go into our second day, which is really the learning networking day, where there's the panels, the workshops, anywhere from cake decorating, but also learning panels about being a leader in your community, scaling your product, which Ehime will be talking about, and just really dynamic day. One of my favorite things about the summit is, one, the energy that everyone has. Everyone is there to support. It's vibrant, it's fun, but it's all about getting what you need on that day.
Okay. And what's the wellness component? Is there yoga?
Yes. So we always have a special wellness component.
Okay.
And so, of course, people come dressed in, whatever they have, but we still make them do some movements. And so there is a session dedicated just to wellness. It usually incorporates a yoga, mindfulness session. We also start our day with a breathing exercise where people set their intentions for the day. And so very much looking at, everyone talks about wellness. We don't just talk about it at the summit. We incorporate it. So there's
Actually,
practices.
I feel like wellness has gotten really bastardized in the last couple of years, especially thanks to like TikTok and Instagram. Like there is legit wellness and how we take, like you took care of your health. That was wellness.
Right.
Like some of this other stuff going on out there.
Yeah, it's
wellness,
marketing.
Right? Like how many more vitamins? How many more supplements can I possibly take? Right? So, so I love that. And I'm going to say this to you. I said this to you off air, but I am going to say this to you. I mean, as an ally, as a woman supporter, I want to come. And is that I feel like I should be there.
And I'm like, girl, come.
Right.
Where have you been? Okay, so this summit is for everyone. And I want you to know that. And one thing that I want you to also understand is that while you come, the content will not center you if you're not a Black woman. So we've had men come, all kinds of people come. They're just like, my sister actually, although she is a Black woman herself, she's in the healthcare industry. And she came last year and she was like, I want to bring my team. I said, why? I'm like, it's about food. And she was like,
everybody likes food.
But not just everyone likes food. She's like, it's about being a leader. It's about being a businesswoman. It's about all of those things. Food is just that one topic that you're focusing on. But she was like, all my girls, everybody, my team can really benefit. I was like, wow. That's exciting. You know, but the energy and the learning and the connections there are top tier. And so if you're an ally, I implore you to look at the website, blackwomeninfood.org, look at the summit lineup, and really look at what do I need from this space. Because I think if you're coming, it's not just about, support. I think allyship should also be mutual. I'm an ally. I support these causes, but there's also a benefit to the relationship. All relationships are mutually beneficial.
That's a good point.
So don't just come in the spirit of, don't think like I have to give something but bring yourself. I'm going to give something and I'm also going to get something. And that could be different for everybody.
That's a really good point. And I love that. And I am going to be there this year. So like, again, she's an honoree. Is there a something, tell me what.
Well, I can't tell you now because it's going to be a surprise.
Tell me.
But it's all encompassing. Our honorees are invited to the summit as well. So honorees are selected. They're celebrated in March. They're from all over the country and even the world. This year we have about 3 honorees that are just even from the continent of Africa. Like they live there full time. And so they're also invited to the summit. To meet each other and connect. On the agenda, we have a little crowns that display who on the agenda is an honoree.
Tiara. If
now
not,
I have to dress up.
Oh my God, we are dressing up. I know this crowd.
Yes. The girls show up.
Yes. Oh, I have no doubt. And you know I'm prepared for that. No two ways about it.
And on top of the honorees, actually, I always have to emphasize, and this is what we tell the whole summit team, everyone that comes through our door is a VIP. We don't treat anyone better or less than anybody else. And so whether the honorees are special because, of course, they've been honored and they deserve all the recognition, but there's no one at the summit that isn't special.
That is so great. We're going to sort of end on that. I would love for you to tell everybody where they can find you online, where they can find you on Insta. Give me more.
So you can find us at www.sweetkiwi.com.
Sweetkiwi.com.
On Instagram at Sweetkiwi USA. And you can find us in grocery stores.
23 grams of protein?
Yes.
Right.
Wow. Okay.
You can find us at Whole Foods, Safeway, Kings and Balducci's, Weiss Market, across the Northeast. Yeah.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on your word. And
Thank
Nina,
you for having me.
Tell everybody, please, where we can find you online and on Instagram.
So, of course, blackwomeninfood.org and then diaspora.org, both of those on Instagram and other LinkedIn, wherever you do your business at, we're there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for joining us. So we just had an amazing segment talking about Black Women in Food Summit. All that information is going to be in the show notes, so please check that out. I'm going to be there. You should be there. It's going to be amazing. And look at where I am now. I'm in the kitchen of Jackie with Chef Dominica Cornacchia. Why is it so hard for me to say? Chef, thank you so much for allowing us back here with you. The last time I had you on the show, you were just sort of getting your fingers wet here, leaving Cafe Milano. You have a storied history of cooking all around the world. Obviously, your Italian roots.
Yes.
I'd love to talk about what it's going to look like, what you're going to be doing here at Jackie.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Of course.
Actually. Welcome back to Jackie.
Thank you.
And yes, so again, Milano gave me really a good, huge window and exposure, if you will. But here at Jackie, I'm really trying to take a different angle and do something different that actually is pushing me to always come up with new ideas and new twists on the dishes, flavors, colors, etc.
Well, because I would assume for you, you don't want people to come in here and be like, you don't want people to think, oh, it's Cafe Milano. That's not what you're trying to do here.
Absolutely.
You want to bring really something fresh and interesting.
Exactly.
So what does that look like for you? Like, let's talk, like I saw some beautiful zucchini flowers,
Yes.
fresh, they're gorgeous. What are you going to be doing with that?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, I'm trying to really cater to the local, to the clientele that we have around us over here. I know there's a lot of younger professionals, and they're actually pretty educated as far as the palate.
Yes,
So-
this is an educated clientele.
Exactly.
They
So
may be younger, but they're still
they're
educated.
very educated, and I'm glad because I think with the experience that I built, I think I'm able and capable to bring them something fun, fresh, and different as far as flavors, colors, combination. They're going to be able to find a little bit of dishes that are maybe recognizable in a sense, but actually they have the influence from cuisine that I've been experimenting through my career all over the world.
Okay, so what are we doing with these zucchini flowers? I'm going to grab some so I have a shot of them.
Yep.
Okay, so what are we doing with these?
So since it's really the beginning of the season for local squash blossom, they're very, very delicate.
Yes,
So
they're
it's
so
very
delicate.
difficult. Usually I prefer to stuff them, but in this case
Right.
they're very, very tender. So we're just gonna dip them in a very light tempura, just to create them like a crunchiness.
Okay.
So sprinkle with some sea salt, and then in a bed of creamy ricotta cheese
Yum.
and lemon zest.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
So-
Okay, and then I see all these lacy potato things over here. What are we doing with those?
Yes, those it's a contrast of flavor and crunchiness into another dish, which I think is very, very popular, the very famous meatball.
Right?
Okay, but
And I just have to tell you, like, if I see meatballs on the menu, I'm totally ordering them. Like, I'm a burger, meatball. I like meat. Like, I love that. So I'm very excited.
so in this case, the approach we took with the meatball, we served them with melted blue cheese.
Okay.
Actually, to get away a little bit from the typical sauces and flavors that they come with.
Right, because we talked about this before. When I think of a meatball, especially an Italian meatball, I think Parmesan or Romano or mozzarella.
Yes.
I don't think blue cheese. So I'd
Yeah.
love to know where you got that idea.
Well, actually, I learned here in the U.S., where I saw steakhouses or other places where they. At first, I was curious myself, and actually, it does work.
Right. Well, because like I think of like a compound butter,
Exactly.
like a blue cheese compound butter,
Exactly.
right?
And then that would be our finish for the dish to
Oh, so
create a
just
little fun on
Little
it.
crunch.
A little crunch.
Okay.
Everybody loves potato.
Yes.
So it's
everybody.
not like the meat and potato type of dish.
Oh,
Just in a
yeah.
different angle.
So cute. Okay. So just lastly, before we wrap up, I want to know with the spring season coming, I assume you're doing pastas. Am I right on that?
Yeah, so we have a couple, again, a different approach, follow as well the season. That's one of the main thing of the purpose of this menu at
Right.
this time of the year. So we have a beet ravioli filled with sweet potato and
Ooh.
golden beets in butter and sage sauce and aged goat cheese on the outside.
Beautiful.
Also, we have some house-made dill flavored linguine with cream of green pea, asparagus,
Sure.
and saute Gulf shrimps on top.
Ooh, I think I saw some of that going by earlier. That looks delicious. Okay, so the menu is launching. We're going to be wrapping up here. I want to thank you so much for having us in the kitchen. We're going to watch you plate while we wrap up. But if there was one thing on the dish, on the menu, that you were like, if you come in, I really want you to taste it, what is it?
Well, I think yes, there are a few because there is basically 70% of the menu has been wrapped around. So,
Wow.
So there is quite a bit to choose from. But yeah, just follow the season, I think.
Okay, it will be good. Thank you, Chef. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting us back in your kitchen.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of you for joining me today. What an amazing show. We really discussed a wide variety of things. I feel so fortunate that I get to sit with people like Nina and Chef here and talk about what's happening in our communities. So I want to thank all of you for joining me today. Don't forget, you can follow me at NYCCINELLIS on all the platforms. Hey, click subscribe on both podcasts and on YouTube. And don't forget to @ me. I answer all the questions. And if you have a question for Chef, you know I'll get that answered for you too. So, so much is going on out there. Check out the list, areyouwanit.com. We have all of it. But be safe out there. Have a delicious week.
Produced by Heartcast Media.